Sorry, I am 5 minutes late. How's everyone going? How's everyone doing today? Okay, I'm 6 minutes late. So, I'd like us to try something else today. I'd like us to try something else today. I would want a situation where we ask some questions. All right, thanks, Jerry. So I want a situation where I want us to ask, I want to go through, I want to know what we have gone through in the last few weeks. And I'd like to know what are the things that we might have been having some issues with, and see if we can go through them again. Hello, guys. Can you all hear me? Yeah, I said, are there questions that we might be passing through? Are there things that we might want? Just some few questions. I'm open for questions for the next 10 minutes before we start for today. Oh, you want to see me? Do you all want to see me? Yes. No, 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 no. You don't want to see me. You don't want to see me. Yeah, you don't want to see me. Exactly. So I have a lot of no's. So, so I'm saying, yeah, I would like to ask, adding a group to Sudoers, okay. For that, I'll share a document I shared with someone regarding Sudoers. I think I will share that document here. For me, I'll take a look at the question. So for the Sudoers, I think we should, I'll share that document. So I think we all should try and go through that document. This document will help. I think it helped one of us. So I'll start with backpack. Okay, I will revisit the package management. That's fine. Um, I'll revisit the package management. That's good. So I think I'll take that before I move into today's topic. Okay, Fumilayo, I have an issue with understanding how to use the SSH key we generated for the user in the admin group. I don't understand how the creation of one key by a user works for multiple users. Okay, I would like to understand better what you're trying to say, Fumilayo. So generally, when you create a key, the key you've created would work for that user, and that account. And so every key you create has a public key and a private key. The essence for that is because there is an algorithm that integrates the public key and the private key together. So wherever you have that public key, anyone that has access to that public key can have direct connection to your server using that algorithm that has been created between the two keys. So that's the reason why you can actually have your key. You can have a private key in your server or in a user's account, And if you share that private, if you share the public side of that key, which is the one that ends with the .pub, anyone, that person you are sharing it with, so far as he has SSHD configured on a system, would be able to connect directly to your system because you have given the person that permission to have that access. I hope that answers your question. If that answers your question, Funmilayo, please let us know in the chat. After downloading Vagrant, how do you activate or run a Windows device? Sincerely, that's where I missed it. I don't understand what you mean by running, activating, or run on it. Once you've downloaded Vagrant, I think, yeah, with the Vagrant also, I've never really used Vagrant on a Windows device, but I think when you download a Vagrant file on your system, you can also use your PowerShell and run the Vagrant command to start it up. So you can initialize it on the folder in your system and also use the same Vagrant up to initialize it. Innocent, I missed Saturday's live class, so while going to the recording, there was a place you ran commands sudo systemctl reload sshd. There was no explanation on what that does. Okay, what I was just trying to do here was I was restarting the SSH command, SSHD process. So the SSH that we use is also comes as a library in your Linux systems. So I was just restarting it because I made some changes on the configuration file. I wanted it to pick those changes, so that was why I restarted it. According to our curriculum for 1 month, we have not covered services and hardening Linux. We are already in month 2. Okay, interesting. So I think I'll have to look at that because I am actually following your trainings already. Apparently, what we've been doing, I've actually been hardening of Linux systems, hardening of Linux services. The only thing that we've not done is security, and that security is what's going to cover. It's just basically firewall. So that's some of the things that and some of the security tips you need to handle when you're hardening your Linux machine. I'm just apparently following what we have here, and so far so good. I've not seen anything on hardening right here, but I can take a second look at the curriculum, and if there's anything I've missed, I will go back. I'll go over them. I'll take a look at the curriculum, and if anything I've missed, I'll go back. I'll go over them. I would like to understand file system mounting and unmounting of devices. Okay, I think I might also take that. I don't know the aspects of file systems, but I wouldn't want us to spend so much time going through things that we've gone through before in the past. But if we have some little time, I can make some references to that. Class has finished. Okay, guys, please give me 5 minutes, please, to attend to my son. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry for that. So yeah, back to what I was saying. Yeah, so we'll look at that. There's just the security and some few hardening tips that we'll look into that. Donald, is it from VI sudo that we can add the group sudo as? Yes, you can add it from there. VI sudo is just a command line, just a VI to give you access to the sudo file. Yes, that's where, but you have to be root. Permission denied while trying to SSH. What does that error mean? Yeah, it might not be an issue with your key. It might be an issue with your key having access to the other server. So, like what I did in the video, I logged into the other server and I allowed SSH key to have access to that server. So if you've not allowed SSH into that server, the key would not be able to connect the key to the server. So that this can come in as a result of so many things. So that was one of the issues that can actually cause that. So it depends on what you're trying to do, Beatrice. Can you go over SSH key generation again? Oh, okay. We can see if we can have enough time to do that. The terminal used on our LMS, are they used when you connect your machine on Vagrant, or use terminal on Mac without connecting your VI? I don't understand this question, please, Anonymous. Mr. and Miss Anonymous, after downloading Vagrant setup, you install it on your Windows. Oh, thank you, Michael, for answering that. Which is better, creating users, add users? It's still back to this. It does not really matter. Whichever one makes you comfortable is fine. So yeah, I hope you guys can hear me. I'm back. All right, guys. So I will just go over a few things from last week. So let's go over the file systems, understanding file systems. Let's go back to understanding file systems. I think we had a video on that in our LMS, I believe so. So I'll just take us through very little explanation on file systems. I'm trying to log into our LMS. Okay. I've just done that. Okay, so Linux file systems and virtual storages. So apparently, like I said, according to the file systems we have in Linux, there are different file systems that we can use in Linux. Now, file systems can mean so many things, and it depends on the particular what we're talking about. So file systems can mean root directories. It can mean types of data storages. It can also mean a logical volume or a partition in the system. Now, basically, the most important thing is that we know a file system is more like a disk storage, which can be a root directory, a logical, an external drive. That's what I mean by logical volume. But they all have to work in a particular format. So there are, to be honest with you, there are like almost 100 types of formats which Linux uses. We're ranging from EX3, EX4, HPFS, BRTRFS, FreeBSD, and so on and so forth. And there are like over 100 of them. So it depends on what you're talking about when it comes to file system. Now, the file systems more like it's stored, is set up in a metadata structure in such a way that it gives access to the system, and it allows the Linux itself work properly with all the files that are associated with the file system. So everything you're trying to do is set up within that file system. Unlike the Windows machine, where most of these things are installed on the hard drive and running through the hard drive, the Linux system is built in such a way that it sits on the drive, on the file system. It doesn't run as an executable file. Rather, it sits on the file system and it makes its execution based on sitting on the file system and not running as an executable file in your Windows machine, just like the way your Windows machine works. So the thing is, it's the kernel, which is this. The kernel actually, what the kernel actually does, the kernel is what gives it that ability, or allows whatsoever you have stored on your file system executes. So it has to execute it through the kernel. That is, and we're talking about the brain box, more or less, of the Linux system. You understand what I'm trying to say? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So it runs it on the kernel, and that's just basically how it runs. I'll just try to be very, very quick. It runs it on the kernel, so it means that your kernel is more like the brain box of your system, of, let's say, of a car, where you have a brain box. Your brain box picks up all the information from every aspect of your car and directs it to the brain box and sends the information wherever you want to send it to. Unlike the Windows machine, where everything is deep-rooted into your root file and executed and running as part of your systems, for the Linux machine, it's sitting on it. So everything you want to do goes through your kernel and gets a response from your kernel. Your kernel executes it and sends the response down to your terminal, or to whatever application that has made that request. So that's practically how it works. So that's the reason why you can see there is a kernel on it, and there's the virtual file system is where the files is what handles the communication, and is like a swap. Is what we call the swap. Is what we call the swap in a Linux machine. That's basically what we call the virtual file system. Then the hardware, the file types are the ones I mentioned: EX3, EX4, and so on. Then you have the hardware, which is the hard drive itself. Yes. So that's just a quick understanding of these things. Now you need to understand that there are different directories that are being used in your file system, ranging from the root file system, which is just the /, the bin, where you have all the executable files. So Linux allows you, it uses executable files to run its applications. Now, let me see if I still have my Vagrant running. I can show you. I think I showed you guys the last time. So see if I can show you guys again. I'm actually spinning up a new Vagrant machine, but anyway, that's fine. So we have where the executable files are stored is stored on what we call the slash bin, the slash bin file. That's where it's stored. You have where the etc files are stored, which the etc files contains the local systems. Okay. Good. Can you all see my terminal? I'm sure you can't read it, so I will try to increase it. So there are different things in the file system. If I go to my slash dash, just your dash alone, that's this. It means that's the root file, and under the root file is where you get your home directory, your etc directory, your swap file, and so on and so forth that has been stored or that have been generated in it. Like I said, the bin file is where you have your executable files. So everything here are part of your executable files. How the executable files run is that you use a yes, I will zoom it further. Sorry. How the executable files run is that you use a we use an export model to export everything we want to use into a file where once you run your command on any part of your terminal, because that has been exported and stored in your env. I'm sure you all know what your env is called. This is where, or this is the env file. So everything you are running, this is where your bin file. You can see this is the path. So everything you're running is set up on this path and is directed to your SBin or your bin file and all that. Can you all hear me? Yeah, no, it's environment variables. Yeah, it's just the environment variables for your system. So I'm just taking us through some of the file folders in Linux. So I think that these are just basically some of the things that you need to know about the file system. I wouldn't want to go way too deep. I wouldn't want to go way too deep into it. So, but this just basically you have to understand the various types of files where you there. I can say there are about 5 different files that are very important. One is your home file. Another one is your bin file, your slash bin file. Another one is your slash etc file. I never advise anyone to go into edit anything in your slash etc file because that's where you have most of your Linux based configurations. Then another one again is I've mentioned your home directory. Then another one again is your slash mnt, which is where you store your mount points. Those are 4 of the most important. So the bin file contains, yes, that popular, yes, that's what contains all executable files. So everything here right now are the executable files. These are all the things that you can run. For anything you want to run is stored here. If you've not moved it in here, it can't work. For instance, if I decide to do my df is telling me, you can see I can run it because I'm in the file here and it's already been executed and it's stored as my bin file. If you make any configuration changes on this df, for instance, you would actually have issues. Yes, those are 4 of the major main files that I believe that we should know. That's the user file. So the slash usr is the user file. That stores some of the user configurations. Let's see. So that stores some of the user configurations. The user bin files. So the user also has his own bin files for execution. Well, Emeka, you can go through our video for last week. I did that on Friday. I did that on Saturday. It wouldn't be fair for me to go back, and that took us quite some time. We've spent almost 30 minutes already on this. So if you go through the video and you still have issues, please kindly reach out to me on Slack and we can pick it up from there. Then you have these are the user executable files. The games that are stored on the user file, the etc and everything that is stored on the user file, the libraries that are being used by the user files, and so on and so forth. So that's what the slash usr means. The slash usr means default folders that will be created for every user. That's what that means. Okay. So package managers and package types. What are package managers? Package managers are things like your APT, your they are just managers that you use in I'll just rephrase the English. They're just managers. They're just applications that or a set of tools that manages all your packages that you're trying to install. So, for instance, the Ubuntu uses an apt package manager. So everything that you want to install, you have to use apt to install it. Now, if those things have not been stored or have not been created and pushed into apt, have not been created and pushed into apt, you will not be able to install them. So let me show you what a package manager looks like. Do we have any? So, okay, fine. Yes, let's see if I can get a package manager URL for you and show you what it looks like. Fine, yes. So if you can see my screen, so this is a package manager for Ubuntu. Now this is where Ubuntu stores, all its installation files and everything. Yeah, there's no difference between apt-get and this. They're the same thing, but I think DPKG is the deployed packages. That one you need to run it you need to run it differently, but there's no difference between apt and apt-get. So this is an example of a package manager. Here, everything that Ubuntu uses is stored in here. You can see the Ubuntu systems. This is the which of the Bionic. I think Bionic should be 20 or so, or 21. So this is how they store everything. Once you make your apt install, it comes into something like this Ubuntu file, and it gets, you can see well, okay, let's see if it's this. It comes into this page and looks for that particular package. For instance, if it is all within here, and it would identify where it is being stored within here and download that package for you using the apt. That's just basically what it does. This is more like a site where you can get some of the Ubuntu package managers and all that. Okay, guys, so without wasting so much more of our time, let's go into this week's topic. This week's topic is a very, very interesting one to me. It's all about Git. Please, does anyone know what Git is? Can someone just please answer to us? Bionic is 18.4. I mean, thank you very much. I didn't know that. Can anyone please, if you know what Git is, I just need one or two people to answer that question. I just need one or two people to answer that question, please. If you know what Git is. So yes, you're all correct. It's a version control, the version control system. We have different types of, yeah, it's an open source version control system. Yes, you are all correct. We have different types of Gits. We have GitLab, we have GitHub, which every one of us is using. We have Bitbucket, which is the one by Atlassian. And Git is just practically a repository where we store and manage our Gitbook. Trust me, I didn't know all these ones. Git is like a repository where we store and manage our files, our codes, and things like that. Um, it it helps us with the agile system of deployment, which every one of us is familiar with. It helps us with the agile system of deployment, so people can constantly be working on one project in different parts of the world, and everyone has a single point of truth for deploying their code, a single place, a single repository where these codes have actually been stored and where they reside. So apparently, that's just what Git is more of. So now the version controlling side of things here is so that you can have different versions, so that you can be able to manage the application, so you can actually do some rollbacks and things like that. They had to put some measures so people don't just throw in things into that code. You can have some certain level of measure, you can have some certain level of control as to what you want to let go and what you don't want to come out, what you want, how you want your applications to be deployed, how you want your applications to be built, and the features you want to be released and the features you don't want to be released. You can use all these things to manage it, and it's very, very good for collaboration also. Very, very good for collaboration. So one of the advantages of Git, some of the advantages of Git is one performance. It helps improve the performance of your team. Your team gets to improve their performance generally, and also reduces time. Another benefit of it is security. So it's very secured. You don't need to worry about external people having access to it, especially when you're using your private repos and things like that. It's also very flexible and is widely accepted. And most importantly, it's it saves time. It saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of money. A lot of money. So these are just some of the advantages of Git. So let's go into Git distribution commands workflow. This Git is going to be is supposed to be a walkover for every one of us here, because we've all been using Git. We have, in fact, you guys are even using. Yes, it saves money. It saves a lot of money, because imagine when you have you can afford to employ developers in different parts of the world, and they will all push into one code. If you back in the days, if you wanted to employ a developer from the US or India, you have to bring him to Nigeria so that he will write his code and store it in your system, or you have a different way of version controlling your system. So it saves a lot of money. Yes, saves a whole lot of money. Yeah, so you're already used to Git even better than I do. How many lines of code can you mail, and how will you be able to integrate this line of code into your already existing code? How will you be able to integrate this line of code into your already existing code? Please answer me. So you guys have been using Git very, very well, and I'm really impressed, because I think you guys are already using it better than I am. But anyways, now the exercise here states you are ready. You already have GitHub accounts. Also set up. It says set up a GitLab account if you don't have one already. You already have all school exercise project. Clone the project to your local system. Set up your name and email it, and email in Git Global. Okay. Submit the outputs. All right. So I think basically what they're trying to say here is, with from your Git account, create another GitLab account, and set it up in such a way that you can push to the GitLab account. So I'll have to also draw your attention to the fact that for every Git account you create, there is always a signature in that Git account, and that signature is always stored in the .git file. Um, let me see if mm, so I'm in a Git file. Um, so this is a system that I already built that has a Git file attached to it. You can see my .git in it. Now, when you want to make reference to when you want to build or you want to rebuild your Git file or you want to push to another Git repository, you need to understand that Git has what you call the config file, which is this. So you have to ensure that you configure this config file to point to the origin you want it to point to. This URL has to point to the origin you want it to point to. So you need to make this configuration. If you don't make this configuration, it will not be able to point to the other branch you're trying to push it to. I hope you all understand that. Ensure that you make that changes on the config file, else you'll not be able to push it to that. Yeah, it's. I think that's why it's an assignment. I just gave you all a okay. The assignment here, I'll take it again from the beginning. It's okay. It's okay. I'll take it again from the beginning. The assignment here is to set up a GitLab account and push what you already have on your GitHub to your GitLab account. Now you need to understand that setting up a GitLab account is easy side, but pushing your code from your GitHub to your GitLab account is not the easy side because your Git already has your code already has a .git file, a hidden .git file that has a config within it where the repository you're pushing to has been configured, which brings about this set up your name and email in this. So you need to ensure that you change the origin or the location of the repository that you want to push into. Otherwise, you will not be able to push your line of code or your code into your GitLab account. Yes, yes, that's what you're just saying, Emmanuel. Push your existing code from your GitHub account to your GitLab account and show us a video of it, show the output of it. Now they need to see the Git log. We need to see Git log. We need to see your Git remote V, and we need to see your Git config so that we can see that you actually pushed into your GitLab account. I'm sure we all understand now? Okay, great. So the next thing is Git terms. Let's see what's here. Oh. So Git work now. Different companies actually have different ways of using their Git flow. Um, Naturally, I'm a kind of person where I prefer using features to handle our Git flow. So we have a feature management. Once you want to build a new feature, you branch out of your dev environment, you set up the new feature. Once you're done with the feature, you push it, you merge it back to your dev environment and build it from your dev environment to your staging environment and to your production environment. we can you can finish up with your dev environment, your staging environment, and your production environment. So, well, you need to you have to understand how how they want to use their Git, and how best based on the way the team is set up, that you can actually use Git and you can use it effectively. So that's just basically what the Git flow here is all about. There are standard ways of doing it, but I mean there are also a lot of ways that people have actually adopted that makes it a whole lot more easier for them. Git is a very interesting thing to learn, and it's very important. As simple as it may sound, it's one of the most important things that we need to know in this line of business, because you're going to be doing a lot of Git maintenance. The maintenance of Git actually belongs to cloud and DevOps engineers. They actually are the ones that maintain it. So you need to understand how you want your team to flow. You need to understand what you want your teams to be able to do, and the kind of access you can run with Git. Okay. So so Emeka, yes, I'm a software slash DevOps engineer. I write code also. I'm a DevOps engineer, and I'm a cloud engineer also. So guys, I think I think I'm here now to listen to your questions what and answer your questions. Emeka, this last week's class, I'm not prepared for it, so, but let's see. I felt I'd already gone through the file system on last week's class. What's your challenge really, Emeka, on last week's class? Practically, Daniel, there's no difference. Let's just call it that way. There's no difference. Emeka, we could actually have a one-on-one so you can let me know exactly where you're having challenges. If you miss the class, there's a video. Why don't you go to the video? Then we can have a one-on-one, and you can let me know where you're having issues. Yeah, Chikebuka just posted the video. Please, can you pin the video on this chat? It would be really nice for us not to be having carryover of challenges, because the moment you start having carryover of challenges, I missed the part where you were talking about the last assignment, pushing our files to GitLab. Yeah, that's just basically it. You've said it. Git no fit hard you. If Git hard you, then there's problem. Or where are we going to start from? The ext4, ext3 file systems, they're just file systems, standard file systems being used by Linux itself, by our systems, our Linux systems itself. There's nothing. It's more like NTFS, which is being used by Windows. So it's just a type of file system that is being used by Linux. What do you change? What do we change the Git config URL to, since you push it? You change it to the GitLab URL, to the repository you created for GitLab. Why don't they create simple Git upload from all the push, pull, fork, knock plenty? Well, get used to it. Yeah, where is Jerry? Jerry, please, I think it's you that Jerry, or who is available, who is going to answer this question. Yes, that's what it does. The git config L is just to git config L. This is just to show you your config of your systems. That's basically what it does. So you're right. You tried to clone your repository from a remote to your local system through HTTP, but it kept on asking me for username and password. I wanted to use the SSH key method, but issues I've been having is that it keeps saying something about ownership. The SSH key I use was generated by one of the users on the machine. So how does the SSH key work, especially? So it's simple formula. What you just simply do, the same way you generated your SSH key, you generate another SSH key for your for the Git. You copy the public side of it and move it. You go to your settings. You paste the public in that settings for your SSH where you ask for your SSH, and once you've pasted that settings, you now integrate your Git to your GitLab account. That's simple. I think you use the command ssh dash t, right? Yeah. So use that command to do it. Uh, do you all understand how you can use SSH? I'm sure. Do you all understand how you can use generate SSH for your GitHub account? Once you change it, once you've changed the URL in the Fatu say once you change the URL in your GitLab, it will be pointing to, once you made your configurations and you've done the correct configuration, to point to the new GitLab accounts, and you can make your push there. Apparently, I don't have a flash drive. Sorry, Chibe. I don't have a flash drive. Sorry about that. Yeah, once you change the same configuration you have done, you'd also do the same thing to GitLab, and you should be able to reverse to your regular GitHub account. This is just for the training. Just want to understand how, if you understand the use of Git, how you can change repositories in Git and things like that. Yeah, one day there's nothing advantageous about this. Exactly, something. That's what I was trying to. I'm just trying to explain how you can change your configurations in your GitLab, so until you can push to your GitLab from your GitHub account. Back to this VirtualBox thing. Well, I'm surprised why you can't install VirtualBox. I installed VirtualBox on my M1 machine, so I'm surprised why you can't install VirtualBox. Well, apparently, Nana, if you can't install VirtualBox, it would mean that you would have to use Docker. You'd have to use Docker for Vagrant. So I'll be posting the. This is the documentation provisioning Vagrant using Docker. Docker is not an alternative to Vagrant, no, but you can provision a Vagrant machine on a Docker instance, and would still be able to run your Docker Vagrant and your Vagrant up and all that. But you be doing it on a Docker machine. GitLab is the same thing as GitHub. I'm sorry. Why are there so many nodes? What are these nodes for? Why are there so many nodes? Why are there so many nodes? GitHub is quite easy to use. Please, I'd like to know what is the answer? What's the question I asked? Oh, thank you very much, Fumlayo. Yes, that is great. Thank you very much. I think we should be able to solve our question. Setting up SSH on GitHub and GitLab. Yeah. So I think this should be able to set up our questions. How do I set my private network to DHCP? I think it's in the last video. You should just go into your Vagrant file and edit your private network to DHCP and it should be fine. Okay, Funmi just posted up a blog or a website where we can actually get that sorted out. Please, we need to take it easy. Git is quite simple, and it's the basics of what we are doing. All these are the basics of what we are doing. You need to start. We need to find a way to fall in love with it. Please, I'm always available for questions. If you have questions, send me on Slack. I might not respond to you immediately, but I'll definitely respond to you. Okay. Um, let's see. No, I think it's best for you to embed it in your readme.mh because that's the way I'll be able to read it. I'll be able to see it. Okay. So the MD files are like your README files. So I think every exercise should have its own MD file, and that's where you should have some of your documentation on your project. Yeah. Can you paste the error you're getting here? Adela, can you paste the error you're getting here? Whom have I not answered accepted his please, probably you will have to send it again. I mean, I've had quite a lot of. Probably you will have to send it again. Send them again today so I can take my time. Sorry about that, Tolulope. Please send it again so I can take my time and please send it again, please. Conrad. Conrad is my handle. KUNRAD. Yes, Conrad. Request. GitHub request. I want to take this time to take a look at our curriculum. Sorry about that if I've not responded. Please send it again. Sorry, audio was not lost. Okay, okay. All right, Samson, I'll look at it now. I will try to accept as many as I can today. Chukwemeka, what are you trying to configure? Let's see. I'm looking for the. I am looking for our curriculums so I can take a look at what I want to take a look at our curriculum so that we can address the issue that we are not doing the things we ought to have done. I'm here. Just give me a minute, please. Or does anyone have a sample of the curriculum here? Can you share that with me so we can actually take a look at what we've done so far? I'm looking for the curriculum. I really can't see it. Okay, thank you for that. I Where is it? Can't see it, oh guys. Does somebody really have it like a file where I can really get it? Yeah, that's better. It's taking us to. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I've seen it. Okay, that's fine. I'll attend to them all. No, the class is not over. Please, we are still here. Um, going by this, I think I can have a session with us next on Saturday on hardening of Linux and some of these protocols, FTP, VPS, web services, and all that. I can have a small session on us on that. Then we should all be able to do the project. What do you all think? Okay. Okay, so for the remaining things that ought to have been here, I'll have a session with us on Saturday before we move in proper into week two. I'm pretty sure it might be in the week two sessions, but I'll have a training with us on Saturday, and I will talk about the other things that have not been spoken about here. Yes, there is in this documentation you gave to me. There's a project, though I will adjust it a little bit, but I will adjust it a little bit. But there's a project, so there will be a project that we're all going to have to submit before the end of next week, before Saturday next week. I'll be setting up a project. There's only one Conrad on GitHub. I'm not two. I'm one. This is the only Conrad. Any other Conrad is a counterfeit. This is the real Conrad, and he's standing up right now. All right, guys. So I think we will have that training. I didn't see this, but I think I'll just set up some notes on this, and we can have this. I'll go through everything again. I'm sure we were all able to. You all you all feel very comfortable with installing Linux. You all feel very comfortable with installing Linux. But let me put it up here so we can see it. So for the month one, I hope we all feel for this month one, does everyone feel comfortable installing Linux? Great. Are we all getting comfortable with the terminal? So question two, terminal exactly. Are we all comfortable with the terminal? Great. Question three, can we all navigate around the Linux operating system? Just put three, yes, or three, no, so that we can know what we're going to go back to next week, because that will be the last time. This will be the last time we're going to reverse anything concerning this. We're moving forward and we're moving in a very fast pace, going up from upper week. Are we all comfortable navigating around the Linux operating system? So okay, somehow you can. That means you have some ideas, so you can actually pick it up from there. Can you upgrade from Trusted to Focal? Yes, you can. There is a command to do that, to upgrade. Once you somehow means that you have some ideas, so you can build on the idea you already have. Do we all understand how to manage users and groups? Okay, how many people are complaining of no? Users and groups. So we all don't understand how to navigate users and group. So what challenges do you have with users and groups? Okay, I can see there are so many nodes for the year. So part of the things I'm going to take us through next week on Saturday would be users and groups, or we could also do that today before the end of the day. We might be able to do that today, users and groups on Linux. So we might actually run that again before the end of today. Then, do you all? I'm sure. Do you all know how to use the manual pages? Do we all understand the memory and storage, process management, system D, and version control? Okay, you understand 4%. Interesting. Memory and storage is no. Okay, so I'll be taking us through this week three. Since it's not here, I'll add it up, and we'll have to all set up a vhost for hosting multiple websites using Apache. Then I would also take us the Linux, through the Linux. So I'll also take us through the Linux systems. That's fine. So let's start with. So from the first things that we've said here is that we all don't understand files. Is it files you said? What are the things you say you don't understand again, sir? I forgot to know. My head. Memory and storage. Okay. Users and groups. So I'll start with the users and groups. Okay, fine. I'll start with the users and groups. Now you can see my screen, right? So what are users and groups in Linux? Users are people that have access to your Linux command, people that can make commands in your Linux, in your Linux environment. Hello, can you hear me all? Okay, great. So everybody that has access to your Linux operating system has the ability to log into your system, can be created as a user. So the Linux operating system has the ability for one to multitask in different similar, just like this other different operating systems. Your Windows operating system allows you to create multiple users. So you can decide to have a guest user, an Emeka user, a John user, a Friday user. You can have multiple users on your operating system, and they can all log in, and they will have their own dashboards. They will have their own login pages. They will have access to things that they can do. That's just exactly administrator user. These are the various users that already attached to a system. Now, it's like the who has worked on a Windows server before. A Windows server comes pre-default with some different groups. Now, the groups are people that have ability to do so many things. The groups, you can decide that everybody in this group will have the ability to use Microsoft Word, and everybody who is not in this group can have, maybe everyone in HR should use Microsoft Word, and everyone in development shouldn't use Microsoft Word. So it means that everybody you put in that group, every user you put in that group, in that HR group, will have the ability to use Microsoft Word. And every user you put in the development group will not have the ability to use Microsoft Word. So those are just the two basic explanation of a user and a group. Now, there are three types of permissions that you can assign to either the users or the groups. And there's the read, the write, and the execute permissions. Those are the three types of permissions you can actually assign to every user. When you run the cat etc password, it shows you a yes, a single user can be added and be assigned to multiple groups. In fact, once you're creating a user, it creates a group for that user. You can add multiple groups to them. Now, when we look at this, you can see there is a root, which is the username. That is the username that was created for that particular user. The next one is the password. The next one, which is 0 there, is the user ID. So every user that is being created has an ID, unique ID to that user. There's a group ID. Every user that is being created every group has a unique group ID also attached to it. Then there is the comments, the directory, which is where the default directory the user has access to. And the shell that user can actually use. So there are different types of shells that the user can actually use. The user will have access to every permission of all the groups that is attached to. Does not matter. So do you all understand? Do you all understand that up to this? Okay. Now, for groups, when you want to work with user groups, there are two types of groups. There is a primary groups and there is a secondary group. The primary groups are the ones that, by default, all these ones you can see here are all regarded as the primary group. Whereas the secondary groups are more like if you want a user to have multiple access to different groups, it's called a secondary group because the user has access to its own group, which was created with him while he was being created as a user. And Obioma, please, can we just try to be serious about this? A primary group, every user that is being created with a group ID. Now, if you want that same user to have access to multiple groups, it's called secondary group. So that same user has access to other groups, which makes it have a secondary group and is a secondary group user because that particular group also has multiple users attached to it. So that type of group is called a secondary group. Now, if you ask what's the difference between, for example, if a user A belongs to a group A and group B, and permission is set to group A not to be able to view a file while group B has permission, the user will have the ability to see it. Yes, the primary group comes with the user initially, exactly. But once you now create another group, once you add that user into another group, it becomes a secondary group. A secondary group is a group that the user is added to after their user is created, basically. When you create a user, a group is, yes, a group is created with every user. So does that explain the groups? No, primary group cannot be deleted, but it can only be deleted if the user has been deleted and there's no other user in it. Yeah, the primary group cannot be deleted. Yes, yes, Olamide, the username will be the name of the primary group you're creating. You can't create a user without its own group. Innocent. A primary, once the user has been added into another group, that group now becomes a secondary group. So I believe the next thing we need to look at now is we all know how to create users and create different groups. I've put a very, very interesting documentation, very, 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 very interesting documentation on the chat. I have put a very, very interesting documentation on the chat. I wish I can pin it, but everyone should everyone should try and go through this. If you go through this, you will not have any problems with file management and all that. Go through that. It's very, 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 very educative. Generate SSH for a user in a group. Okay, so Mustafa, I will generate SSH for a user in a group for you. Okay. So I'm going to create a user now called Mustafa. I'll create a user called Mustafa. Now, let's use the add user, which we all like to use. So let's give it a password. Your name, room number, all this not necessary. Yes. Now I've created a user called Mustafa. Now I need to give the user, I need to give Mustafa the so if I decide to make a directory for the user, Mustafa slash dot ssh. So here I'm creating a directory for the user, so the user can have access to, can be able to create his own file. Now, if you log into the user, if you log into the user, if you log into the user su, which I've logged into the user, and you run your SSH keygen, this is going to be generating file in the Mustafa's username. Can we see this? Oh, sudo. Sorry. Okay. Mustafa is not a member of the sudo, so he can't create an SSH keygen. So, but what we can do is to create it and put it in his username. Yes. Oh, sorry. It should be a file name slash home slash Mustafa slash dot sh slash id rsc. So I've created it and I've added it to Mustafa's file. Basically, this is just how you create. This is how you create an SSH key for a user. That's all. I hope that answers the question, Mustafa. Can you remove a user from a primary group only in this? Can you remove a user from the primary group and only have it in secondary group? No, I don't think that's possible. As soon as you create a user, the stem generator, yes, which serves as the primary group, and when you want, no, so the group ID, the user is added into the group IDs. A user can have multiple group IDs. What systemd? Systemd is just a command. It's just a command to run system-related applications. No, you don't use a small g. Use a capital G. Innocent. How do we enter the group home directory? By using the sudo, then the name of that particular group home directory. Does the group have home directory? It's the user that has a home directory. The group is just where you set permissions. It's the user that has the home directory. Yeah, you can assign a home directory to a group. I think once you log in as a user, you will have access to the home directory that you want him to have access to, that you have assigned to the group. When do you cat etc password? You see the users. When you also do cat group, you will see the users as part of the group. I don't understand this question. Put your screen on full screen. Okay. Yes. Yeah, because Mustafa is not a sudo. It does not have the su command, so Mustafa cannot create a SSH key. Those are some of the permissions that the system has installed. Moses. I use the P to allow me because I wanted to create a folder inside an already existing folder. So that's why I use the P, so I can create multiple folders at the same time. Access Can you please access the public keys from Mustafa's account? How do you mean, Bukola? Can you access the public keys from Mustafa? Yeah, the public keys. Yes, you should. You have access to. If you have access to, as the user, you can have access to. So if I do my ls, so yes, you can have access to it. So if I do my cat slash home slash Mustafa dot SSH ID pub. So you can see you have access to it. Yes, you can. On your VI sudo file, I sent a documentation that can sort that out today and already. What command? What's the command you use to transfer the SSH key to Mustafa? I did not use any command to transfer any SSH key to Mustafa. I created an SSH key in Mustafa's account. So you can decide to transfer it from Mustafa's account to any other account. I don't understand. Wale, what do you want me to go again over in the SSH team, please? Yeah, take it to Buka. Yes, yes, Mustafa can access his own public keys from his account. I did not add Mustafa to the sudo file. You can add Mustafa to the sudo file yourself. I sent a documentation on how you can add it. Nothing. I've not done anything, Nana. I just entered the path and it saved the fee and it saved the key. What would you like? What do you like of me to do? What are you trying to do? Transfer what? Uh, Transfer key. So it's simple for you to. It's actually very simple for you to transfer. Okay, I will just let me see. It's very simple for you to transfer a key. So how many users do I have here? I created a Mustafa user, right? And if I want to transfer, because you don't have the right permission, use a sudo. Be a super user to create it. Okay, that's fine, Chukemeka. But that Chukemeka, this what you just responded to him is transferring it from one system to another. If you want to transfer it within the same system to different users, all you need to do is to use your command, your copy. So since they are all use a copy from the generated key, to the location you are moving it to. That's that's just basically what you need. This is just what you need to do. Okay. Any more questions? King, I just responded to your question in the previous page, in the chat page. Okay, so on Saturday we will be looking into the other aspects of the presentation. I will try to share. I've done that in the last video, please. I've done that in the last video. System D is the um I mean, let me think of the right word to use. System D is, like, how will I call it? Um, it's a command that you actually use in seeing what's happening on your systems generally. It's a command that you use in seeing what's going on your the settings of your system D libraries, your call, the daemons, your target, your utilities, even your Linux kernel. So it's just like a command you can use to do it, to see what's going on your systems. One of the things you can do with it is your dpkg. You can see all your services also that are running on your. Oh, I don't have the package installed there. Okay. You can see all your applications that are running, all the services that are currently running on your system. So it's like, it just allows it's like System CTL for Ubuntu, but System D is for Yum, is for on CentOS. I don't know how else again to explain it. It's more like a systems command. It's a systems command. I think you should also be very careful with some of these commands. Like systemd is not a command you like to play with often. You can destroy your system just by playing with that command and editing something wrongly. Okay. So I will start with next week, and I'll start on Saturday with the new documentations, with the training. I'll try to share on the cloud page by Friday what we should all go through, and then I'll then give us some little training on the other things that it seems like we have missed for this quarter. No, I didn't say it can destroy. I say be careful with what you edit when you are in some of those commands. Try not to edit something that can affect the system. That's just basically what I'm saying. I'm not saying it can destroy the system. All right, guys. Yeah, system D. Yeah. So if we don't have any more questions, I think we can call this a day, can we? So I'll set up a training match. I'll set up a small training for Saturday, and I'll try. I would really advise everyone to be on the lookouts on the cloud page by Friday and go through the training that I'm going to be sharing on Saturday. Please, we should all try to go through it, have some prior understanding before the training, before we start. Okay, all right. Thank you. I said I will be sharing a training to cover up for the other aspects that were not yet discussed. But it will not be a video training, it will just be a basic training, basic slides. So we should all try to go through those slides before our meetup on Saturday. Yes, slides. Thank you. All right, guys. Bye.